How do you build a £10 million business? That is what today's episode is all about. So if you've ever dreamt about building an empire, being in control of an empire, you are going to love this episode right now. It's going to be incredible. That is what today's conversation is all about. Let's jump right in. So welcome back to another episode of Business Growth Secrets. Chris has got a question that he's going to be asking today. So let's let him jump straight in and let's get to work on what should be an awesome episode today of Business Growth Secrets.
Okay, big one here. So what I want to ask is, many business owners have great ideas. They're investing in their personal development, their business development. They've got a good product. They've got good services. Yet statistics show most of them are going to fail.
Brutal.
That's the statistics. 99.6% of them, I wrote it down here, don't get to 10 million.
99.6.
So 0.4% of businesses that start will get to the 8-figure mark.
Okay.
What I want to know is, you've done it twice. Yeah. You've rode the ups and downs. You've done it twice. You've defied the odds. What's the difference between you and those that haven't done it? How have you been able to do it more than once, where the vast majority won't get anywhere near it even once?
Okay, so that's a really, really good question. So I'm going to try and break this down because it's quite
a wide question.
Quite a big one, right? So, first business I started it as zero-based startup, just an idea. I went through the pain that everybody goes through in the beginning of trying to figure out how to find their client acquisition, how to build their brand, how to go and get clients in the business, how to build cash flow into the business and do all these things, that a business owner has to do. And, I went through all of that pain, and actually the first business, way tougher, way more difficult, because I had to learn all the lessons, and there's so many. Pain can be a great teacher, right? And I certainly went through a lot of pain in that in my first business, for sure, and also had a lot of joy and a lot of success. It's kind of like both. So the first, I'm trying to look at these, because I've done this, as you say, a few times. So if I look at my first business, that's perhaps where the learning lessons can be bigger for the audience. So in my first business, I started it in 2008, in the middle of a financial crisis. I didn't really
good time to start.
Yeah, good time to start. I didn't really know what I was doing. And when I first started it out, I started as a finance business. And that was the first business I started. And what I was doing is I was lending money on behalf of financial organizations to people that wanted to buy assets. It was an asset finance business. What I realized pretty quickly is that, most finance companies didn't want to lend. So I was going to have to change the model, and I moved into an automotive business, and I built that automotive business up. And that automotive business, I had one business that I had in Chelmsford, which was doing many millions per year, and then I expanded that out to having 5 different ones. So eventually, combined, that group was doing around £40 million a year. We then also had automotive servicing centres, we had automotive paint shops, we had all these other ones that were on their own. It was pretty much an 8-figure business on its own as well. So let's do there, and now I have the events, the seminar business, which is an 8-figure business as well. So I've done this a few times, as you say. So in the first business, the thing that got me there is two. If I really were to, maybe 3 things. There's probably more than that, but there's 3 things that I think that stand out for me in the first journey, because it's like cycles, the first journey. So the first thing that stands out for me is an absolute will and determination. And I feel like if I went back to then, that I was more driven, more determined, and I mean, you work with me every day, how driven and determined
absolutely,
I am. If I go back then...
Relentless, I call it.
Yeah, relentless, but I feel like my first business is more of an obsession.
Okay.
Like, I sacrificed everything in my life. I sacrificed relationships. I sacrificed, time. All I ever did was work on the business, work in the business, and the business was my life. So that definitely. And look, I'm not recommending that. So just anyone that's watching, I'm not telling you to do that, but I am telling you that's
There
what I
needs to be a
did.
degree of obsession.
Yeah.
Right.
So okay. Well, if we say that, then
Would you say?
yes. Yeah, I think so. I think.
If you want to get to that 8-figure point, there's a degree of obsession.
Well, actually, I feel that now I know what I know, and now I've had experience, I don't need to have as much obsession as what I did in the beginning.
Okay.
I really feel like, I can build 8-figure businesses. We could build a marketing company tomorrow and take it to 8 figures without me being obsessed, because I understand client acquisition. I understand it so well that it wouldn't really matter. I understand building teams, and I'd say, well, it wouldn't really matter. So I understand building management teams, which I didn't understand then, and building a management team and running a management team, running that properly and getting that to 8 figures. I could do it without me being obsessed, truthfully.
Yeah.
But in my first business, I was obsessed. So that was quality number one, which helped me. Hopefully that's not what people take out of the video, because it's not something I advise now. I know some other people will advise that. They're like, you got to be obsessed. You got to this. You got to that.
Yeah.
And it definitely helped me. But actually, I don't think it was the healthiest way and the best way to build a business from a life balance perspective. But let's be straight with you that I had the obsession. And still, I work hard. So let's substitute obsession for a serious work ethic.
Work ethic.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So let's say 1, serious work ethic. Okay.
Yep.
2, I would say marketing. And a very, very good understanding of client acquisition, a very good understanding of using marketing to drive inquiries and sales.
Yeah.
Right. To drive inquiries that turn into
You're
sales.
always talking about advertising into money.
Yeah. Advertising
sort
into
of
profit.
stuff. Yeah, advertising into profit.
Yeah, if you understand advertising into profit, building an 8-figure business, if you actually understand it. And the funny thing is, we have thousands of people that come to seminars, events. Obviously, we run hundreds and hundreds of events per year, and you can tell them this, and they will have heard it. They've probably heard it from me, but then other people that are really successful, because it is the thing. How do I know that? Because I've done 350 podcast episodes with other people, and all those other people say the same thing, right? Once you understand how to turn advertising into profit, your life is going to be so much easier, because you're then going to be driving lead flow into business, right? So that for me is like definitely. If work ethic is 1, that is 100% number 2.
Okay.
Advertising into profit, for me, it's a secret.
Broadly speaking, it's marketing and understanding that.
Yeah. So broadly speaking, without going deep into that, because that could be its own thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Speak for days on that, right? But broadly speaking, it is understanding how to use money to drive inquiries that turn into sales. So how do you take a pot of money, and how do you invest that money to drive you new inquiries that turn into more money? So if we take 1,000, we build inquiries, that we get £1,000, and from that we get 100 inquiries, and those 100 inquiries turn into £20,000 in sales, and then you can do that every single day, then you are all the way to the bank, right? And that is critical, okay? So number 3, this is business 1, okay? Number 3 is sales.
Yeah.
So we're talking work ethic, marketing, sales. Being able to sell, and being able to sell the vision of the business, sell the vision to the financiers, and to be able to sell the vision, the commitment, the products, the services. Sales is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. And then, the next one, of course, would be team. You ain't going to do it alone.
No.
Forget it if you think you're going to do it alone, because it ain't going to happen. You said 0.4, that was the statistic.
0.4% will get to 8 figures.
Yeah, and let me tell you, 0.0% do it on their own.
Yeah.
You have to have a team, right? Yeah. So you've got to go, and I don't even know that is the right statistic. Yeah. But I am telling you, I don't know anyone that ain't done that on their own.
At what point do you need to do that recruitment drive
you're always recruiting. You're always recruiting. As a business, you're always recruiting. So I'll come to that. But what we're going to do is going to move through, because that would be, say, business number 1 and 2, right? Which would be, automotive, and then the servicing, the body shops, all the other stuff, right? So then we go to, the business 3, which would be the seminar coaching events business, right? So what have I learned here? I've learned that, and a big shout out to who's been a great mentor for me, Sarah Willingham, is that this can be done with a life balance. When my little boy was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism, and I realised that I wanted to not just build a great business. I wanted to be a really good dad. I wanted to be a great dad. So I wanted to do the school runs. I wanted to spend time with him. I wanted to be there for him, and I think that sometimes people don't think that you can have it all. And I think meeting Sarah and learning from Sarah and her husband, Michael, they really helped me to understand that actually you don't need to be obsessed. You have to have a good work ethic, but you don't need to be relentless. You need to work through people. So this time round, I would say, and it's slightly different. So I would say, 1, being strategic and having strategic advisors.
Okay.
Right. So I've definitely grown up as a business person, right? Is strategic advisors, coaches, mentors, looking at the moves we make, not just making moves for the sake of it, reducing the amount of errors that we make, being more profitable. Strategic advice would be number 1 for me now.
So speed of action is important. You always talk about that, but actually strategically, speed of action.
Yeah, you figure the move out, but then once you figure the move out, you make it fast.
Yeah.
Right? And actually, you just said one that I hadn't said, but speed is super important, right? Okay. And then, so I would say strategic advice, come back to the marketing, essential. Come back to the sales, essential. And then, even more so this time around, teams. Realizing that you've got to build a great team of people, that you want a great culture. And I think that is so important, so important, and I think a lot of people miss it.
Yeah.
You're not going to do this on your own. There is no. I think that my perception of it. I think actually a less mature person in business, a less mature person thinks it is all about them and they are the genius with 1,000 hands. So what they do is they recruit the people underneath them to do everything, and it's their vision, and everybody else has to do everything that they say, and that is like a less mature version. And I think that probably was the version of me originally.
Okay.
I think the new version, the 2.0 version, is actually that you get amazing people, and the amazing people are better than you at the different segments. And I mean it this time, because I could probably say that to you 10 years ago. I actually mean it now. I want top quality people, the best of the best, to be able to bring the ideas to the table, to be able to take the actions, to be able to do the things. There is no one perfect business person. There's no one perfect person. There's no one amazing person. Let me tell you, there's things I'm good at. I'm great at sales, great at training salespeople. I'm great at speaking. I'm great at training speakers. I'm great at marketing. I'm happy to tell you what I'm great at, right? But let me tell you what I'm not great at. I'm less organized than you might think. I am very organised, but I'm definitely less organised than. That's definitely like a bit of ADHD there. I jump from thing to thing to thing and bounce around. Certainly not perfect. I'm not the perfect manager. I never have been the perfect manager. I'm not the most operational manager, and it's important because these different things, the things that I'm not great at, you've got to have people that are great at them because they're essential. And then when you get those things covered, it makes for a great business. It was really interesting. I was listening to someone talk about Steve Jobs. Now, Steve Jobs was the visionary, was the person that, visionary grew Apple. And when he grew Apple for the first time, he nearly took Apple into bankruptcy and it failed.
Yeah.
And the next time he came back to Apple, a lot of people thought Steve Jobs has grown up. He's now become the perfect business person. And then he turned Apple into a £1 trillion company. But actually, I was reading recently that actually what happened was Steve Jobs came back with his vision. But the second time round, he had Tim Cook. And Tim Cook operationally was the man that could make the trains run on time.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And now we've got visionary with the man that can run the trains on time, with Steve Wozniak as well, who can do the the genius creative and make those bits. And now you had the perfect team.
Yeah.
And that's what made Apple great.
Yeah.
And I think that's really my understanding of that this time around. It's about finding great people, working with great people, working again. Big shout out to Sarah. She's helped me to realize that as well.
Yeah.
Is that we got to keep finding great people, working with great people. So there's a fairly long answer and a multifaceted answer.
But there's definitely a few things there. Obviously, it starts with the strong work ethic.
Yeah.
Marketing is understanding marketing is a really big thing.
And I'll go with one last thing, because I think this is a flaw. It's not a flaw. It's a horrible thing to say about anything, but it is a flaw that I often see in business people. A couple of flaws that I think is actually look at some other traits that I think that I definitely don't have that can hold people back. I'm not afraid, and if I do get afraid, because everyone gets afraid, but when I'm afraid, I learn, right? So I think that resourcefulness and being willing to learn and being willing to be fearful and doing it anyway is very, very important. 100%. And then the ego. I definitely think I had the ego in the first. I definitely don't have the ego as much now. I don't care what people think.
Notice you said as much.
No, everyone's got a bit of an ego. Like, let's not joke that everybody has a bit of an ego, but not anywhere near as much as I had. But if there's people watching that want to succeed and they want to do that, yes, they've got to have the work ethic. They've got to overcome fear. They've got to be relentless. They've got to become a marketer. They've got to be able to learn and embrace selling. And I think that even as I've talked through, I've now come to probably the most important one. And the most important one for me is they have got to have, and if there is any obsession that I do have, they've got to have an obsession about developing themselves. And I definitely have that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I definitely have that. Like, I'm obsessed. I will learn from anyone. I will put my ego aside. I don't care. And I will say, I am the student. In this scenario, you are the master. I want to learn from you. And I will do that again and again and again and again and again and again. And I will not let my ego get in the way. I see it as a flaw in people, 100%. I see talent. Do you know what? I'll tell you where it's the flaw is, that I see it more. We obviously run the events. We have hundreds of people come to the events and great people. And the women that come to the events are very open. They're very coachable. They're very... don't have huge egos.
Okay.
And they want to learn, and they're saying, I'm willing to learn. But I see a lot of young guys that actually have strong ego, where they want to figure it out themselves. They want to do this. They want to be the man. They want to make this happen. And let me tell you, this is for the young guys, because I've been still a young guy, but I have been a really young guy, 20, 30, building businesses that didn't want to listen to anyone. It ain't going to get you nowhere. Open up, be coachable, and I promise you that will be a great thing for you to develop.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people go, well, I like personal development, and I listen to podcasts, and I do this, and I do that. But yeah, are you investing in mentors? Are you sitting down and zipping it and listening and taking notes? Because I don't think that many people do. And that is one thing that I do is I'm with a mentor. I shut up, I listen, I write notes, I consider the questions I'm going to ask, and I listen, and I'm open. I find the right people and I listen to them. And I think if people do that, I think you'll go a hell of a lot further, because this is what we call the transference of knowledge. If we've got somebody here that's really, really successful and we can listen to them and that person can transfer their knowledge to you, then guess what? You can be where they are. And that for me has been one of the great secrets and one of the great things for me to be able to do. And I think people think they're getting it. They think they're getting it often on the podcast and stuff like that. And look, the podcasts are great value. You're here, you're listening, you're getting lots of tips, there's information, there's different perspectives. You're building knowledge, you're building acumen by listening to this. But nothing beats sitting down with a mentor and being told, we call it the elusive obvious. It's the obvious thing that you cannot see. And when you're in the picture, you can't see what's going on in the picture, right? It's the elusive obvious. And being able to say, it's like, hey, yeah, listen to what you said, but you still haven't built that team. Okay, yeah, all right, I haven't. And actually being able to be mentored in that way, to put your ego aside, I think is incredibly important. That's definitely something I do. And yeah, hopefully that's been
So it's a great last point there. Basically, be prepared to be a student and listen.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
And I hope that
Lots
that
of
helps
stuff
a few
there.
people.
Lots to unpack there.
It might not be what you want to hear, but that's what I've got to say, you know, because it's not necessarily the sexiest thing, but let me tell you, it's the truest thing. And hopefully you found some value from that. So
Great,
you know,
great
good.
answer. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Brilliant. So hopefully you enjoyed today's episode of Business Growth Secrets. Some great tips on how you can become an 8-figure business owner. You can make more money. You can build your businesses. You can get better results. If you've enjoyed this, tell us in the comments. It'd be great to hear from you. You know, perhaps there's some things you want to add to that, right? You know, there's some things, questions you want to ask. I'll be more than willing to help you and really guide you on growing your business. So tell us in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you on another episode of Business Growth Secrets very soon.